Hey guys, welcome to Temez's Tips, Tricks, and Tutorials. This is the second video in my series of tutorials about background controllers. Last time we covered the animation change controller. In this tutorial I'll be talking about one of the controllers that can be used to put stage items in motion, VelSet. VelSet does pretty much what it says. It sets the XY velocities on the stage item to a designated amount. The reason you'd want to use a background controller for velocity is if you wanted the movement to not start at the beginning of the match, or if you want the movement to change over time. Like any other controller, VelSet can be used more than once in the series of actions you set under your background control def. So you can use VelSet to move your stage item at various speeds at different times during the match, or change its direction. Here is our simple animation from the last video again. Since I know we are going to be putting a controller on it, I've assigned an ID number to it. ID equals 2 just because this is the second tutorial. And I've put in the definition for the controller. Control ID equals 2 to match the ID I set on the stage item so that the controller will work. Now to add the VelSet control. BGCTRL and the name. Again, I like to include the ID in there for my own reference. Type equals VelSet shows that this controller is setting the velocity of the stage item. Time equals 260 is our start time. The object won't begin moving till we reach this number of in-game ticks in the stage. X equals 2 is the velocity moving the object to the right. Y equals 0 is us not giving the object a vertical velocity. Let's see it work in game. As you can see, it stayed still for a moment before moving. Now, let's show a bit more of what this controller can do. First, we'll put in a loop time. For this example, I'll be using 240. Now, I'm going to put in a controller to set the velocity to 0 at 0 ticks so that when the loop begins, the stage item will not be moving just how it was at the start of the stage. Type equals VelSet, time equals 0, X equals 0. We'll stop it from moving at the beginning of the loop. Now, I'll adjust the control that moves it to the right to have its timing go with my loop. Time equals 60, X equals 2, we'll move it to the right at a velocity of 2 at 60 ticks. Next, a control to stop the motion at 120 ticks. Type VelSet, time 120, X equals 0, so at 120 ticks, the velocity will be set to 0 again. And finally, a control to move it back to the left at 180 ticks. Type equals VelSet, time equals 180, X equals -2. Now, let's see the loop work in game. As you can see, it starts off as stopped for 1 second, moves to the right for 1 second, stops for 1 second, moves back to the left for 1 second, and then the loop begins and it stops again before moving to the right again. Now, one final note about VelSet. If you are going to use it, it's usually better not to assign the velocity equals element to the stage item. If you do, that will now become the base value for the velocity of your item, and any VelSets will have to take this into account. Here's an example of how this can affect your movement. We'll put a small velocity on our stage item. Velocity equals 0.1. Now, even though we have VelSet controls set to be x0, y0, the velocity element at the top will still move the stage item. This is because having VelSet at 0, 0 is really just resetting the velocity to 0.1.1 because it considers that to be the default value. Now, see, it's moving down even though we have VelSet to 0. Of course, if you want an effect like this movement, this is one way to accomplish it. That's it for this tutorial. A text version of this speech is available for download in the video description, as well as a simple stage in case you want to experiment with it.